The Fiery Trail of Jack London. A Life Lived on the Edge of the World. Chapter 1. Born of the Unknown, 1876. The story begins in San Francisco, California, on a cold January morning in 1876. Born as John Griffith Chaney, the boy who would become Jack London entered the world under uncertain stars. His mother, Flora Wellman, was a spiritualist and music teacher, and his biological father, William Chaney, a traveling astrologer, denied paternity. After a scandalous dispute and a failed suicide attempt by Flora, the infant was taken in by John London, a disabled Civil War veteran who married Flora and gave the boy his surname. Jack's early years were marked by instability. The family moved frequently, chasing the promise of prosperity in the still wild lands of post-Gold Rush California. Poverty was a constant shadow. Little Jack found solace not in comfort, but in the rawness of life, on the docks, in books, and in his wild, undisciplined imagination. Chapter 2. The Oyster Pirate, 1889 to 1893. By age 13, Jack left school and began working grueling shifts at a cannery. He hated the mechanical drudgery, and the sea began to call him. At 15, he borrowed money to buy a small sloop and joined the Oyster Pirates, young men who stole shellfish under the moonlight from the oyster beds of the San Francisco Bay. This was his first taste of rebellion and adventure. When the law caught up with him, Jack switched sides and joined the California Fish Patrol. Irony didn't matter to him. He needed money and wanted stories. After that, he signed onto a sealing schooner, Sophia Sutherland, bound for Japan and the Bering Sea. The journey, full of ice, whales, and rough sailors, ignited his soul. He returned to California brimming with experience, disease-ridden, and determined to write. Chapter 3. Dreams in Chains, 1894 to 1897. America was in economic panic. The Pullman strike had erupted, and Jack joined a wave of unemployed men marching east for jobs. He became a hobo, traveling by freight train, sleeping under bridges, and getting arrested in Niagara Falls for vagrancy. Prison hardened him. It was filthy, cruel, and humbling. When he got out, he resolved to change. He returned to Oakland and enrolled in high school at age 19, devouring books with a fury. He read Darwin, Nietzsche, Marx, and the great American novelists. Though he only attended the University of California, Berkeley for a semester due to lack of money, his self-education made him formidable. His pen was becoming his blade. Chapter 4. The Call of the North, 1897 to 1898. The Klondike Gold Rush erupted. Jack, 21, joined thousands seeking fortune in the frozen Yukon. It was a journey of mythic hardship. Temperatures dropped to minus 50 degrees Celsius, and starvation was a constant threat. Jack survived scurvy, isolation, and bitter cold, but he found no gold. What he brought back instead were stories. The vast, indifferent wilderness shaped his view of nature, brutal, beautiful, and indifferent to man. He began writing furiously, submitting stories to magazines. Rejections piled high until the Overland Monthly accepted To the Man on Trail. Soon after, The White Silence and An Odyssey of the North followed. Jack London had arrived. Chapter 5. The Writer as a Force, 1900 to 1904. In 1900, Jack published his first novel, A Daughter of the Snows. It was well received, but his masterpiece was yet to come. In 1903, The Call of the Wild was published. The story of Buck, a domesticated dog reverting to primal instincts in the Klondike, captured the American imagination. It sold millions. Jack was just 27. He followed with The Sea Wolf, White Fang, and dozens of short stories. His writing was vivid, muscular, philosophical, exploring the struggle between civilization and the wild, man and nature, freedom and fate. He became the highest-paid writer in America. Yet success didn't soften him. Jack embraced socialism, sailed to the South Pacific, climbed volcanoes, battled illness, and sought truth beyond comfort. His body suffered, but his spirit thrived. Chapter 6. Sailing the Snark, 1905 to 1907. With royalties pouring in, Jack built a custom yacht, the Snark, and set sail with his second wife, Charmian, in 1907. They intended to circumnavigate the globe. The voyage was chaotic, full of disease, failed engines, and storms, but it also brought them to Hawaii, the Marquesas, Samoa, Fiji, a world far beyond the industrialized West. He wrote The Cruise of the Snark and Martin Eden, a semi-autobiographical novel about a writer who rises from poverty only to be disillusioned by fame. It remains one of his most complex and tragic works. Chapter 7. The Iron Heel and Burning Lands, 1908 to 1913. As his body deteriorated, ravaged by exhaustion, alcohol, and illness, Jack's mind turned darker. He foresaw the rise of totalitarianism in the Iron Heel, 1908, predicting fascism decades before it arrived. He wrote Burning Daylight, The Valley of the Moon, and The Scarlet Plague, exploring labor struggles, love, apocalypse, and utopia. Meanwhile, Jack established Beauty Ranch in Sonoma Valley, trying to create a model socialist estate. It drained his finances. The grand house he built burned down before he could live in it. Still, he toiled on, writing daily, nursing animals, and preaching socialism, even as he grew disillusioned with the political left. Chapter 8. The Long Dying, 1914 to 1916. In his final years, Jack was a broken man in many ways, crippled by kidney disease, chronic pain, and addiction to morphine. Yet, he never stopped writing. He published The Star Rover, a novel about a prisoner who escapes pain by traveling through time in his mind. It was hallucinatory, philosophical, and ahead of its time. On November 22, 1916, at age 40, Jack London died at his ranch. The official cause was uremia. Rumors of suicide followed him, as they had followed his whole life. But what remained certain was this: he lived more in 4 decades than most would in 10. Epilogue. The Eternal Fire. Jack London left behind more than 50 books, hundreds of stories, essays, speeches, and letters. He was a sailor, pirate, gold prospector, war correspondent, rancher, and revolutionary. He was a man of contradictions, individualist and socialist, adventurer and philosopher, celebrity and recluse. His stories still burn. Buck still hears the call, the sea still howls in The Sea Wolf, and readers still feel the wind of the Yukon on their faces when they open his books. Jack London never found paradise, but he lived and wrote, as though he was chasing it with every step.